fair prices and expert service. Visit G&B Energy today on Intercraft Drive in Statesville or gnbenergy.com. G&B Energy, home of the $480 Rinnai tankless water heater. Restrictions apply.
All right, everyone. Hello. Happy Monday to you. You are listening to the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number if you have something you want to chat about. We got a lot to go over today. It was a busy weekend in the world of sports. NASCAR making some headlines, also making some rumors about the 2025 schedule, which is expected to be released in the next couple of weeks. We had some college baseball over the weekend, each team winning a game. That gives us a decisive game 3 later on tonight. And also later on tonight, I know you're going to love to hear it, the same day as a decisive game for a championship in the Men's College World Series, we have a decisive game 7 for the Stanley Cup in the NHL. Is it the same exact time? No. Baseball game is at 7. The hockey game is at 8. But I have a problem with these two games, these two championship games, being scheduled on the same day, 1 hour apart. Not hours apart, 1 hour apart. Baseball game at 7, hockey game at 8. Like I said, we're going to talk about the news that's been talked about. It's not really news yet, but the rumors about what the NASCAR schedule could possibly look like next year, as it's being rumored that some tracks are being removed from the playoffs, others being added. And is it a possibility that Phoenix won't be the host of the championship race moving forward? Possibly. I would like it. I've said it before. I don't think our championship race should be all the way out on the West Coast. NASCAR is a Southeast sport, mainly. Grew up here. It needs to be Charlotte. Go back to Homestead if you really need to, but Bristol maybe. Atlanta. Not Atlanta anymore because of the super speedway aspect of it. Maybe Darlington. I'd love to see a championship handed out at Darlington. That would be awesome, in my opinion. But we're not there yet. We do have some rumors to talk about. Also, we are getting some news from around the sports world, some new coaches in the NBA. The Chiefs releasing one of their defensive linemen, Isaiah Buggs, after he was arrested multiple times in Alabama this offseason. So there's some news in the sports world that we'll keep you gathered up on. But on this Monday, we are going to start off with the NASCAR Cup Series. As we had a weekend up in New England for New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It was a wet weekend. No qualifying for the modified guys. No qualifying for the Xfinity Series. And for the first time in 39 races, which is the longest stretch since 2000, NASCAR Cup Series qualifying was rained out. But we had a fairly dry Sunday. The race got started a little bit earlier than they wanted to. They couldn't move it up too much, but they did move it up a little bit. So the race got started. We got to halfway, and then the rain came. After the rain came and the heavy stuff passed, NASCAR dried off the track a little bit and said, boys, let's strap on those rain tires and go finish this race. And that's kind of where chaos ensued. It was a mess. Now, it was definitely entertaining. I'm not going to argue that it wasn't entertaining because, man, it was a sight to see. But it was definitely embarrassing. That's one of the words that we're going to use today. It was embarrassing for NASCAR. First of all, Kyle Busch, what are you doing? What are you doing, my guy? How do you wreck your car under caution the first lap after a red flag? I mean, and this is probably not what happened, but the only thing that I can think of is Kyle Busch said, you know what, I don't feel like doing this, and made it look like he lost his car and put it in the wall. It wouldn't be far-fetched to believe that if we know anything about Kyle Busch. He's wrecked people on purpose before. Why wouldn't he wreck himself on purpose? I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just saying. 2 laps later, still under caution. You had Corey LaJoie spin a full 360 under caution, and I'm watching this going, oh, this is going to be a mess. Oh, these guys don't know how to race in the rain. We are experimenting with oval rain racing. Now, those of you who watch Formula One, IndyCar, IMSA, any other racing series where they don't only go left, you've probably heard of rain tires. Formula One will race in a monsoon. They do not care. They have the technology, they have the experience and the research necessary to be able to do something like that. NASCAR on the ovals, completely different. NASCAR is really the only ones putting rain tires on an oval. So anything that NASCAR is learning is for everybody who has an oval racing series where they're thinking about putting wet tires on. You go to your local short track, they're not racing in the rain. They don't have wet tires. That's not something that you see. But NASCAR is trying to implement rain tires on oval tracks. Now, not all of them. You're never going to see a rain tire at Daytona. Obvious. It's just not going to happen. What you might see is a rain tire at Bristol, rain tires at Martinsville, which we have seen. We saw it at Richmond earlier this year, and it worked. But once NASCAR decided, okay, we're going to go to the rain tires, that should have been the last time that we got any input from NASCAR. After that, it should have been, hey, teams, we're going to continue racing. We gave you the rain tire. We gave you the option, and we told you to be prepared in case this happens. Well, it's happening. Here are the rain tires. Go race. And that should have been it. Now, I understand the non-competitive pit stops. You don't want a pit crew member hitting his head on the concrete because he slipped. I get that. But for NASCAR to say you're not allowed to change tires, like, who is NASCAR to determine who can and can't change tires? You have a 10-15 lap run on rain tires. Yeah, I want new ones. I want the team to take those tires off, look at them and say, okay, things look okay. Or I want the team to relay back to me that the tires look terrible and you got to figure something out. NASCAR put us under caution with, I think it was 15 to go, 17 to go, somewhere in that range. And the first word down from NASCAR was, you're not allowed to change tires. And Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell are like, there is no tire left. Why are you making me run this tire? I have no tire. And if you saw the tire when it came off of Kyle Larson's car, there was nothing left. It was blistering. NASCAR almost made a decision that cost a lot of cars the race. Because if Kyle Larson blows a tire going into turn 1 on a restart, it's hard for me to believe that there aren't going to be other drivers involved in it. Look at Noah Gragson. He spun out and collected 5 other drivers on a restart. I have a lot of thoughts about the NASCAR race this weekend, and specifically the decision not to go to wet weather tires, but to police the wet weather tires. We're going to talk about that a little bit after the commercial break, as well as previewing Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Scoreboard. We're back after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of The Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, kicking off a new weekend, the final week of June, without much relief from the heat. Plenty of sunshine today as temperatures climb back up into the mid-90s. Those feels like temperatures once again a little closer to 100. So if you're outside, drink plenty of water, take frequent breaks, go inside, cool off for a while if you have to work outside. It's just all in an effort to keep you safe. And looking ahead, we may get a little better shot at some pop-up showers and thunderstorms by the middle of the week, but staying hot for a while. That's your forecast. From the WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The app with Lake Norman deals. The WSIC app is out now, wherever you get your apps.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Live. Get your weekend off to an early start on Thursday night. The Carolinas' premier Beatles tribute band Tangerine Trees covers many well-known songs and a few obscure ones. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with the concert beginning at 7. Bring your chairs to Langtree on Thursday, June 27th for Beatles tribute band Tangerine Trees. Brookdale's Live Under the Oaks concert series continues on Friday. The ultimate 90s experience from Gump Fiction begins at 6 p.m. Kick back and relax on the green in front of the stage at Birkdale Village in Huntersville for the free Gump Fiction show on Friday night. Downtown Statesville welcomes live music this weekend. On Friday, Wine Maestro showcases a performance by Danny Wicker at 7 p.m., while Delaney's Sports Bar presents Bryce Reese at 8 p.m. Visit Downtown Statesville Friday night for live music at Wine Maestro and Delaney's Sports Bar. The Kane Center for the Arts. Week 4 of summer camps begins Monday, July 8th. Morning and afternoon camps for ages 5 to 15 include ceramics, drawing, art, food, painting, and more. The fall performance season begins Saturday, September 7th with a show by comedian Tom Cotter. For more information on the just announced fall performance schedule and summer camp programs, visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series revs up summertime at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The 10-race series nights 5 and 6 are on Monday, July 1st and Tuesday, July 2nd. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets, details, and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Be a part of the conversation.
We can't fix America's debt by starving its people.
Have your say.
One shooting after another, and we're doing nothing to solve it?
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
Home of the best talk.
WSIC Local starts here.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
You know, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show today, I am once again out of my element. They've got me down here in Cornelius. I got to move the camera. If you're watching on the app, WSIC News app, maybe you're on Facebook or YouTube or X even. You see me playing around with this camera. Hi, everyone. How's it going? I'm out of my element here. I'm not standing up. You know, normally I like to stand up. If you call into the studio, 844-STUDIO-4, I'm going to do my best to get you on air. I didn't do my best, but I got to figure it out one of these days. We're talking a little NASCAR and the Cup race over at New Hampshire from this past weekend. Man, I'll tell you what, I am pleasantly surprised with the racing from New Hampshire. And I will be transparent with everybody. I did not catch the beginning of the race. I saw most of the second half of the race, but earlier in the race, I was actually down in Mooresville at the movie theaters watching Inside Out 2. Good movie. You should check it out if you saw the first one or if you're interested in that. It's a good movie. Good movie. But I didn't see the first half of the Cup race because of that. Now, obviously, I saw the highlights. But that really isn't the storyline. The storyline of New Hampshire is what happened after stage 2 ended, after the rain came and went. Because after the rain came and went, it turned into chaos. Way too many cautions, way too many single car spins. You have NASCAR refusing to throw a caution. They refused to throw a caution with Brad Keselowski spun around backwards, stopped on the racetrack. He is stopped on the racetrack, and NASCAR isn't throwing the caution. You have drivers not maintaining pace speed. And NASCAR says, yeah, it doesn't matter. We're not policing that right now. It was a mess, and it was kind of embarrassing. And this is what we talk about when we say NASCAR makes it up as they go. They change their own rules whenever they feel like it. There is a rule that says during caution, you must maintain pace speed. Otherwise, you're going to lose your spot. Well, because everybody was trying to run right up against the inside wall or in any spot really that had any kind of standing water, the drivers were checking up a lot, slowing down a lot. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. noticed this, kept his speed, kept pace speed, and passed a bunch of people, like 10 cars. He passed so many people. Well, NASCAR saw that and said, no, you can't do that. Go back to where you were, which doesn't make sense to me because if you watch, they were not maintaining pace speed. That is one of the rules that NASCAR has. So once again, we see NASCAR picking and choosing when they're going to enforce certain rules. It's not the first time. Think of passing below the double yellow line. They pick and choose when they want to enforce that rule. When it first turned into a rule, the passing below the yellow line at super speedways, Dale Jr. passed Matt Kenseth well below the line. No penalty. Regan Smith gets forced below the yellow line. Penalty for passing below the yellow. They're not consistent with any of the rules that they make. This one included passing under the yellow and maintaining your speed. It cost Marcos Ambrose a win at Sonoma one year because he shut his engine off to save a little gas. It didn't misfire. He didn't maintain pace speed and ended up losing. Look at Greg Biffle at Kansas in what was it, 2006 maybe? I'm probably wrong about that year. But the races, maybe it wasn't even Kansas. The race is getting shortened because of light, because there's no lights at the racetrack. Greg Biffle comes out of turn 4, runs out of gas, is clearly not keeping speed with the pace car, but NASCAR gave him the win anyway. And then this weekend at New Hampshire, you have everybody checking up because they want to get into the spot where the water is to keep their tires dry. They do that. They go down there, but they slow down to 10, 15 miles an hour. Well, the guys that don't do that are continuing to keep their pace speed. They pass them legally, might I add. Yes, it was under caution, but because they weren't maintaining speed in front of him, Stenhouse was able to make the pass. And then NASCAR comes over the radio and says, no, we're not playing this game today. You cannot do this. Why? What's the problem? They broke the rule. They weren't maintaining pace speed. But for some reason, NASCAR said, you know what? Right now, we're not going to enforce that rule. Then why have the rule? It seems like every week, it really seems and feels like every single week, we're talking about something different that NASCAR does that isn't consistent with what they've done in the past, that doesn't make any sense. NASCAR hand-holding teams through the final 80 laps of the race, holding their hand, saying, come on, come with us, guys. No, you can't change your tires this time. Come on, keep it moving. Okay, go change your tires, guys. Go change them. Okay, no, this time you can't. What was that? They took something that could have been incredibly entertaining with a ton of different strategy, and they ruined it. They just completely ruined it. Christopher Bell is your race winner at New Hampshire. Here are the results for you. Bell, Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry, Kyle Larson, and Chris Buescher are your top 5. Then it's Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., John Hunter Nemechek, Martin Truex Jr., and Ross Chastain. That's your top 10. Ross Chastain being able to battle his way back to 10th after he spun with maybe 30 to go or something like that. You also saw the 12 car of Ryan Blaney have a tough time. He was collected in an incident with the 34 car of Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell trying everything he could to win that race, make the playoffs. We saw a lot of desperation. We saw a lot of bumpers banging and cars just getting moved out of the way. That part was entertaining. It was the NASCAR with their hand in the pot that was not entertaining. And they took something that could have been a lot of fun, and they nerfed it. That's about the best description that I can give. They turned it into a Nerf football so that nobody gets hurt. Nobody's upset. Although I know a lot of fans were upset. So that begs the question that we have been talking about over the past few weeks. Was it a good race? Was New Hampshire Motor Speedway a good race? And we've talked about the poll that Jeff Gluck posts after every race. Well, according to that poll, which now has over 20,000 votes with 14 hours left, apparently 65% of responders believed that New Hampshire was a good race. I'm not going to disagree with them. Was it a good race? Yeah, it was. Could I have done without the NASCAR influence, the NASCAR hand-holding? Absolutely, I could have. But I'll live with it because it was still entertaining. I had no idea who was going to win that race as we kept getting close. I thought Christopher Bell was going to burn his tires off. I also thought there would have been something to burning off the tires a little bit so that the treading isn't as pronounced and getting the tire flatter. Maybe you could have something that's like a slick. It's something in Formula One that you see every now and then. When they go into the intermediate tire, not the full wet compound, but the intermediate tire, as that tire wears and the grooves in the tire aren't as pronounced, it turns into like a makeshift slick tire. So as the track continues to dry, you're not really losing too much pace. You're not really overheating the tires too much because you're wearing it down to be a slick tire. Now, obviously, it's not as good as a regular slick tire, a soft, a medium, or a hard. But in drying conditions, it works. That's what I thought we might have seen with the tire that Goodyear brought for the NASCAR race. But for some reason, that tire was not wearing. It was graining and blistering. Much more difficult for the teams to deal with that. Much more difficult for the drivers to manage that than something that would just slowly turn into a slick tire. So that is the NASCAR series here. By the way, points update for you. Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott are tied for regular season points right now. The tiebreaker goes to Kyle Larson because of, well, he's got more wins. He's got more top fives, and he's got more stage points, and more stage wins, and more laps led. So basically every tiebreaker goes to Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Tyler Reddick, your top five. Christopher Bell, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, the top 10. In the playoff picture right now, the last driver in, Joey Logano by 13 points over Bubba Wallace. Kyle Busch with a tough weekend. He's 45 points out now. Man. We'll be back here on the scoreboard. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, kicking off a new weekend, the final week of June, without much relief from the heat. Plenty of sunshine today as temperatures climb back up into the mid-90s. Those feels like temperatures once again a little closer to 100. So if you're outside, drink plenty of water, take frequent breaks, go inside, cool off for a while if you have to work outside. It's just all in an effort to keep you safe. And looking ahead, we may get a little better shot at some pop-up showers and thunderstorms by the middle of the week, but staying hot for a while. That's your forecast. From the WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Would you like to change your health situation? Improve your current health with a wellness consultation with me, Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. I'll work with you to reach your individual goals. This includes a review of your current medications, supplements, diet, and lifestyle choices. This is a progressive way to improve your current health position for your future. Great for individuals or couples wanting to make improvement. Call me at Lowry Drug in Statesville, 704-873-2247.
More than a century ago, Bunch Johnson Funeral Home was founded on compassion. Let us assist you with pre-planning for funerals and cremations. Our family is here when you need us. Bunch Johnson Funeral Home.
Temperatures are heating up, but the prices are cooling down at Randy Marion Ford Lincoln here in Statesville. How about this? Over $8,000 off F-150s. That's the XLT trim, that's the Lariat trim, that's the Platinum trim, that's the Limited trim. That is the Crew Cab, that is the Super Cab. You name it, Randy Marion Ford. We got it right here in Statesville at a big discount on F-150s. Again, over $8,000 off. Come see us today, I-77, exit 49B.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-869-8560. 800-869-8560. 800-869-8560. That's 800-869.
If you have an upcoming event, let WSIC spread the word. Go to WSICnews.com and click on the Community Calendar button. WSIC, proud to be part of your community.
I'm Bryce Johnson with this Unpacking It Sports and Faith Minute. In sports, sometimes a team is so talented and dominant that none of its competition can even come close to matching up. There's no one else that can compare to this team's greatness. When we think about the God we serve, do we recognize that nobody comes close to his greatness, power, and glory? It's crazy to even try to compare the one true God to imitation gods and idols. In Exodus 15:11, it says, "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders?" It's important to acknowledge that God is God and we are not. Plus, temporary idols like success, pleasure, and money can't compare to the Almighty God. Nothing comes close to his greatness. Today, let's not forget, he's the one above all, who knows all. I'm Bryce Johnson, and you can unpack that. For more, go to thesportsdevotional.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly is warning the labor market is nearing an inflection point. She says further slowing of the job market could translate into higher unemployment, and that, she says, means inflation is not the only risk we face. NVIDIA shares continue their fall today, down close to 7%. It's dropped more than 10% over a three-day slide, putting it past the threshold that represents a correction. Some say NVIDIA's sell-off is a sign the bull market is due for a breather. Stocks today were mixed. The Dow was up 261 or 2/3%. The S&P, though, slipped 17 or 1/3%. The NASDAQ down 193 or 1%. It's also been a rough day for companies that make CPAP machines for those with sleep apnea. On Friday, the compound found in Eli Lilly's weight loss drugs was found to help those with the sleep disorder. Shares in ResMed, Inspire, and Adapt Health were all lower today. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
The Scoreboard with Joe Berg continues now on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, everyone. We are back. It's the Scoreboard You know it's your favorite show. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. You can be a part of the program. Chat with me if you'd like. Anything you want to talk about. We were talking a lot of NASCAR. That was a lot of NASCAR information to process. Quick recap. NASCAR racing on rain at the Oval, not for the first time ever, but definitely the biggest track that we've seen the rain tires at, the 1 mile at Loudon. Christopher Bell was able to get it figured out. He grabs his 3rd win of the season. Your point leader, Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, are tied. Tie goes to Kyle Larson for having pretty much every conceivable tiebreaker he could possibly have. Looking at the playoff cut line, Joey Logano 13 points ahead of Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, the next 3 drivers out. As we look forward to next weekend, the Cup Series turns to Nashville, the Nashville Super Speedway. I'll never understand why they call a 1.3-mile track a Super Speedway, but nonetheless, that is the name of the race for the Ally 400. Coverage at 3:30. If you want to listen to it on WSIC, well, you will be able to. Coverage for the Ally 400 beginning at 2:30 right here on your home for NASCAR. Later on tonight, we have a huge hockey game. And I can't stress this enough. It is a huge hockey game. There are people saying this is one of the biggest hockey games in the history of the NHL. Game 7, Stanley Cup Final. Winner gets it all. The Florida Panthers jumped out to a 3-0 series lead. Might I add, in pretty convincing fashion. They had a big win in game 1 and 2. Game 3 a little bit closer. And they end up 3-0. They win 3-0, 4-1, and 4-3. In game 4, with a chance to win the Stanley Cup, Florida puts up a dud, scores 1 goal, and allows 8 goals. Edmonton then comes back and scores 5 goals in games 5 and 6, respectively. Since game 2, Sergei Bobrovsky has allowed 3 goals or more in every game. He's allowed 3, 8, 5, and 5 in his last 4. Not what you want your goaltender to be doing heading into Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened in Game 1. It doesn't matter what happened in Game 2. It doesn't matter that Florida won 3 in a row and then lost 3 in a row. It doesn't matter that Edmonton lost 3 in a row and then won 3 in a row. What matters is there's now 1 game left. Throw out anything that you know that happened throughout the series because it does not matter. Momentum does not carry over game to game like we think it does. This is a brand new game. This is a brand new series. And the winner of this game wins the Stanley Cup. That's what it boils down to. Game number 7. Tonight at 8 o'clock. I think Edmonton's going to do it. I think we are going to have a Canadian Stanley Cup champion. I have a hard time feeling bad for Florida. Just me personally. If you remember what happened last year, Florida, they swept the Carolina Hurricanes and then lost in 5 in the Stanley Cup Final. And then this year they beat the New York Rangers in 6 games. A couple broken hearts in a row there for any of those 2 fan bases. So I'm sure the Florida Panthers, not the biggest team in this area. That's for sure. But the Edmonton Oilers, look, When you win a game in convincing fashion like you did on Game 6 and Friday, and your star player, Connor McDavid, has a goose egg in terms of goals and assists, the tide has turned. Connor McDavid may have been the reason that they won Game 4. He may have been the reason they won Game 6. Game 5. Game 4 and 5. But he wasn't the reason they won Game 6. He put up 0 points in that game. 0. Warren Fogle, Adam Henrique were your goal scorers in the first 2 periods. 1-0, 2-0. Then Zach Hyman, Ryan McLeod, Darnell Nurse, the guys that we expect to score goals, they showed up. Obviously, the McLeod goal and the Darnell Nurse goal, a little bit different as those were empty netters, but my point remains. It doesn't look like Connor McDavid is going to be breaking the all-time single postseason points record this game. He would need, I think, 6. It would probably be a Stanley Cup Final Game 7 record, if I had to guess. I can't see anybody else ever having scored 6 points in a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final before, but I could be wrong. I didn't research that one. I'm just assuming. I got Edmonton winning it. I just think something about what they have going over there is special. Think back to November. And we've seen this before. The last time, and this is a really interesting parallel. The last time that we had a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final was 2019. That series was between the Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. Think back to the regular season of that year, 2018, 2019. I know it's a long time ago, but just think a little bit. On January 1st, the St. Louis Blues were the worst team in hockey. They end up winning the Stanley Cup in 7 games. Think back to this year. And what happened this year? Well, you have the Edmonton Oilers, who were terrible at the beginning of the year. I mean, so bad, in fact, that there were people saying, oh, yep, they're done. It's time to blow it up. This core is never going to get it done. McDavid needs a whole new group of people. Maybe we just get rid of McDavid, just blow it up. Edmonton fires their coach. They hire Knobloch. And they turn into the best team. Since the Edmonton Oilers hired their head coach, Knobloch, they have been the best team in hockey. They started out one of the worst. They go through December, January, February, March, April, May, and now June. They have been the best team. There's no way around it. If you look at every metric, firing a coach can really light a fire under your team. And every now and then, that fire that gets lit, it runs all the way to June. Now the Edmonton Oilers are here with a chance to go on the road and do what those St. Louis Blues in 2019 did. Win the Stanley Cup after having an abysmal start to the season. It doesn't happen often. We talked about it. You get to Thanksgiving, it's like 85% of teams out of the playoffs on Thanksgiving don't make the playoffs. Well, one of those teams that was out on Thanksgiving is probably going to win the Stanley Cup. Well, not probably. They have a chance to tonight. Game 7 later on tonight. One more segment here on the Scoreboard. We're back after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, kicking off a new weekend, the final week of June, without much relief from the heat. Plenty of sunshine today as temperatures climb back up into the mid-90s. Those feels like temperatures once again a little closer to 100. So if you're outside, drink plenty of water, take frequent breaks, go inside, cool off for a while if you have to work outside. It's just all in an effort to keep you safe. And looking ahead, we may get a little better shot at some pop-up showers and thunderstorms by the middle of the week, but staying hot for a while. That's your forecast. From the WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Live gets your weekend off to an early start on Thursday night. The Carolinas' premier Beatles tribute band Tangerine Trees covers many well-known songs and a few obscure ones. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with the concert beginning at 7. Bring your chairs to Langtree on Thursday, June 27th for Beatles tribute band Tangerine Trees. Birkdale's Live Under the Oaks concert series continues on Friday. The ultimate 90s experience from Gump Fiction begins at 6 p.m. Kick back and relax on the green in front of the stage at Birkdale Village in Huntersville for the free Gump Fiction show on Friday night. Downtown Statesville welcomes live music this weekend. On Friday, Wine Maestro showcases a performance by Danny Wicker at 7 p.m., while Delaney's Sports Bar presents Bryce Reese at 8 p.m. Visit Downtown Statesville Friday night for live music at Wine Maestro and Delaney's Sports Bar. The Kane Center for the Arts. Week 4 of summer camps begins Monday, July 8th. Morning and afternoon camps for ages 5 to 15 include ceramics, drawing, art, food, painting, and more. The fall performance season begins Saturday, September 7th with a show by comedian Tom Cotter. For more information on the just announced fall performance schedule and summer camp programs, visit canearts.org. That's C-A-I-N arts.org. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series revs up summertime at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The 10-race series nights 5 and 6 are on Monday, July 1st and Tuesday, July 2nd. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets, details, and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Rev up your dreams with a bike from Tilly Harley-Davidson. Whether you're new to Harley or a seasoned pro, Tilly has the bike for you. Come experience the freedom of the ride. Feel the thrill of the road and the thunder that only a Harley can provide. Stop by Tilly Harley-Davidson of Statesville or go to TillyHD.com.
Talk sports with Joe Berg. Call 844-STUDIO-4. It's the Scoreboard on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, welcome back. We're here at the final segment of the Scoreboard. 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464. Got a lot to talk about in this final segment. Baseball. Yeah, there's still baseball going on. I don't know if anybody's been keeping up with it, considering there's a lot of other sports still winding down their seasons. But baseball is still happening. It seems like the National League is still just kind of stuck in this pit of mediocrity. The National League, we talked about it last week. They only had 4 teams with a winning record. Well, this week they gained one more team with a winning record. 5 National League teams have a winning record now. How about it? With a 6th team sitting at 500. Everyone in the National League seems to be right around 500, except for your top 2 outliers on each side. Philadelphia, LA, you can even throw Milwaukee in there as an outlier. Marlins and Rockies, pretty bad years. They are the worst outliers there. But the All-Star Game is coming up. Phase 1 of voting ends in 3 days. Right now, Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper are your leading vote getters in the American and National League. Just a little reminder on how the All-Star voting works this year. Whoever has the most votes in each league at the end of the first phase of voting automatically is a starter for their league. So right now it would be Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge starting in the All-Star game. There's a second phase with more voting, and you know how it goes from there. So we're not there yet. The MLB All-Star game is still a little bit away. July 16th, that is. So just under a month, about 3 weeks or so away. But we're in the dog days of summer. We're getting to the dog days of summer, that's for sure. And that's when baseball really starts to become prevalent. Now, you got to remember that the Major League Baseball season is going to continue during the Olympics. There's no baseball in the Olympics this year. It's expected that in 2028 there will be. And then maybe a MLB pause to send the major leaguers to the Olympics. We're getting into that NHL territory of, do we want to send our players or not? I would like to see the MLB send their players to the Olympics. It's not happening this year, and there is no Olympic pause. The WNBA is taking a pause. NASCAR is taking a pause. Baseball, well, they said, you know what? It's our time to shine. Honestly, I don't blame them. There's really a small window where baseball is at the front of everyone's mind, and that's during the dog days of summer. If you take that away, well, when are you going to be celebrating baseball? Late June, early July. Then you take a break later in July, and then before you know it, hey, spring training, or not spring training, preseason football is here. We're right around the corner from that, by the way. You think that the NFL season is still, oh man, it's so far away. No, we're going to have training camp soon. It's here. The NFL season is right around the corner. Something to keep an eye on. Later on tonight, we talked about Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. Let's talk about Game 3 of the College World Series. One of the stupidest decisions that I think I've ever seen in my life. The College World Series Game 3 finale on the same day as Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. That's the finale there. 1 hour apart. Hosted by the same network. ESPN owns the rights to both. Why are they scheduling this on the same day at the same time? Now, last week it was, hey, this could happen, and it's really annoying that it looks like it could. Today it's, what are we doing? Seriously. Why is this happening? Because it should not be happening. ESPN owns the broadcasting rights to college baseball. They also own the broadcasting rights to the Stanley Cup Final. So they are allowed to make the schedule as they say fit. I just don't understand putting two championship games on the same day. Probably people upstairs at ESPN that are a lot smarter than I am who are making these decisions. And I'm sure there's reasons for it. I just hope that they didn't say, here's the schedule. And then they said for NHL, here's the schedule. And then said, oh, you know what? We may have messed up. I hope this was like the only option type thing, where the only option that they had was to have the schedule the way it is. I don't know if I trust ESPN enough for that. All right, so a little bit of sports news for you as we get towards the end of the show. Oh, by the way, actually, before we get into that, Charlotte FC over the weekend was in action. They got a win on the road. I know that's pretty surprising, but they are the fourth best team in the Eastern Conference right now. Big difference from last year when they were fourth from the bottom on the East. We're getting very close, and I mean very close, to the end of the transfer for Karol Swiderski, forward for Charlotte FC. The loan is until June 30th. It's only 6 days from now. Now, I haven't really seen anything to indicate whether or not Swiderski is going to be coming back or if his contract is going to get bought out. But I think he is a big impact player for Charlotte FC. And me personally, I'd love to see him back. I think it would be good. But you never know. The Italian club that bought his contract, they do have the ability to actually own the contract, and he would stay in Italy, but they don't have to. He could come back to Charlotte FC. I haven't seen anything about whether or not he's going to stay, but we are going to do our best in hoping he comes back to Charlotte. Here's some news for you. Toronto Raptors all-star guard Scotty Barnes, who's only 22 years old, intends to sign a 5-year maximum rookie extension that could be worth as much as $270 million. I wish I was 10 inches taller. I'm just not tall enough for basketball. Look at that. That is money right there. And this is why you're seeing younger kids come into the NBA as early as possible. Because if you're good right away, you're going to get paid pretty young. Think about a 22-year-old in the NBA getting their first contract versus a 22-year-old going to the NFL who's getting drafted. You're talking like 3 years, I don't know, $35 million for high draft picks. Obviously, there's other people that get more. This is a 5-year, $270 million contract for a kid, 22 years old. I mean, there's less people to pay for an NBA team, obviously, but that just seems like a lot, doesn't it? Scotty Barnes, man, he got paid. Also, the Cleveland Cavaliers hired Golden State Warrior assistant Kenny Atkinson to be their next head coach. Possible Steve Kerr coaching tree starting to branch out a little bit. They had a really good year, did Cleveland, and it was tough to see it end that way, running into obviously the better team in Boston. But Kenny Atkinson, the new head coach for the Cavaliers. The Florida Panthers made it official, by the way. Kyle Okposo is going to be in the lineup for Game 7. That's one of those guys where you look at him and you say, I hope he wins a Stanley Cup. He's never won one before. He's been in the NHL for 17 years. Played for... he was in Buffalo before. Before that, he was an Islander. So he's been around. He just never had a chance to get the Stanley Cup. Maybe this motivates Florida a little bit. Like, hey, let's go get this guy his Stanley Cup. I don't know. Coming to the end of the program here today. This day in sports history, here's one for you. I bet you didn't know this. Baseball has always had a problem with gambling. Always. When I say always, I mean even as far back as 1882, because on this day, the National League expelled umpire Richard Higham from baseball for dishonesty after his links with gambling on games were confirmed. Baseball has always had a problem with gambling, even back in 1882. Oh my goodness. It was also on this day, 2022, Katie Ledecky won the 800-meter gold. She competed the 400, 800, 150 treble for the unprecedented 4th time. Thanks for listening to The Scoreboard. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone.
100.7 WSIC, Statesville, Morris.